Hey, we're going to talk about a subject today, divorce. It's not, a happy topic. However, we've got some practical tips, or I do. Stay tuned.
What are we going to talk about next?
DIVORCE.
All right.
It's final today. Something like that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The topic may be kind of depressing today, but it's a real topic. 50% of us have experienced that up here, and in the church, 50 to 60% in the the unchurched. And
I am a firm believer, though. I talk about sad things. Anybody who watches me knows that I do, but I think it's important to talk about things that other people don't want to talk about, because there's a lot of hurt involved here.
Yeah.
So a lot of you watching have been through this pain, and we want to encourage you today, and also, say you're not alone. And I think divorce is particularly difficult for people who are, it's hard for everybody, but when you're a Christian and you've gotten divorced, I think that there could be stigmas that you struggle with, or just wrestling with how that equates with your faith. So we just want to talk about that today.
Yeah. So
you have been divorced.
I have been,
unfortunately.
Yes, I got a divorce, and did not want one, but it ended up that way. And I think if you watched the previous video that we did on marriage, where I explained that, as Christians, we always want things to be tied up in a nice little pretty bow, and they have a happy ending, and sometimes that doesn't happen.
That's right.
And you can be praying for it to happen, and praying, and it just doesn't. Because
you can be doing the right things, and it still not end well.
Yeah, and one of my questions was, when I was going through that period, was, God, I was doing all the right things. Why am I getting divorced?
Sure.
And
and God says He hates divorce in Malachi 2:16.
He does hate it.
Because it's awful. I hate divorce.
Yes.
I've never been through a divorce, but my husband is a child of divorce, and I've seen how that has affected him.
I hate divorce because I saw what it did to me as a child of divorce, and now to navigate my own divorce in the lives of my two children, and what that meant. And it can be just a huge mess.
Something you said the other day was, and I think this is really important to state, that He hates the action of divorce, not the people.
No, right. He still loves you.
Yes.
He still loves you. So when I was going through, when I was separated, I went through a program that was incredible and helped me tremendously and helped my children. It was called DivorceCare. So
is this a national?
This is a national program, or it may be international. I don't know, but it was so beneficial. And going back to that first point, yes, God hates divorce, but divorce is not a sentence. It is a season in your life. It does not last repercussions of it can last for, a lifetime, but it's a season.
It doesn't define you.
It doesn't define you. It can if you let it, but...
Right, but it's not, like when we talk about how a woman feels, and particularly in that reference of a woman that is a Christian, that she might feel. I know this from the counseling standpoint, not from personal experience, but a lot of ladies who sit across from me in the counseling office have shared that they felt like they were marked for life, that they were no longer wanted in the church. And I do know of some ladies' stories where they actually, were treated that way, which that breaks my heart. Because bad things happen, and it's,
Yeah. And
they need that support and that love.
right.
So
right.
what would you say to a woman who is watching today and going through a divorce? What do you think she needs to hear?
I think you need to hear that God loves you, and He still has a purpose for your life, and just trust Him with it. One of the books that I read while I was going through my divorce was The Red Sea Rules. Ooh. And it is by Robert Morgan, who used to be my pastor in Nashville. One of the rules that he came up with, and it's the story of God leading the Israelites out of Egypt, out of slavery, into the desert. So divorce is kind of like a desert, and so we have to navigate that. But one of the rules was, when you don't know what to do, pray and ask God to show you your next step. You don't have to know
3 steps ahead.
Yeah. Years down the road, you just have to know your next step and know that your Savior is right there with you in that next step. And that brings you great comfort, especially if you're a single mom, you got kids, you're trying to do the work, you're trying to do the housework, you're trying to raise the kids right, you want them to be in church, and I mean, it's exhausting. The thing that exhausted me the most about being in that season of my life was putting my kids in the bathtub, and like when they would be getting out of the bathtub, I would just be like, okay, I'm tapping out. I'm at the end of my energy.
And there's no one there to pick that up.
And there's no one to pick that up, or to say, hey, or to even talk to,
A lot of times it's the little things.
Yes.
I think those of us who are not divorced, we're thinking on the bigger scale when we try to be compassionate and empathetic, but a lot of times it's those little things that just make you unravel.
Yeah.
So what is a way that you try to protect your children as you're going through this process? Emotionally protect them.
So one big thing, and I'm not saying I've always been perfect at it, but do not talk bad about their father. Because guess what? They are part of their father. And I can remember as a child when somebody would talk bad about my daddy, that felt like a knife in my heart. Here I am.
Divorced too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Both
So
sides.
I'm like 9 or 10 years old, and somebody's trash talking my dad, and that language is new to my ears.
Sure.
And that truly felt like a knife in my heart. So,
in a way, does it feel like they're talking about you too?
Oh yes,
yeah,
yes, that's exactly what it feels. And so don't talk bad about their dad. Don't let your friends who may be on your side talk bad about your ex in front of the children.
I think, as we've talked and you've shared a lot of your story, that is something that I have greatly appreciated about you, and is your heart to respect your ex in regards of respecting your children.
I've always wanted them to have a good relationship with their dad, and they do, and
because they need that too.
They need that. Yeah.
So
but I'm not perfect. Not perfect. So
I didn't say you were perfect.
I know, but I'm just saying it for people who may be watching. I'm not perfect.
So how does I would imagine that being on the other side of this decision, a lot of hurt, a lot of struggle. How does a woman grieve and heal? Because that would be so important.
Yeah. You have to take the time. You cannot shortchange this period of grieving and healing, because you will shortchange your own self. And I had to come to the decision that I was part of this too, and so I needed to come clean with God about those things, about my own sin, about my own bad attitudes,
Responsibility.
The responsibility. So I had to come clean on that, and then I can remember just asking God, praying, God, I don't want to miss, I don't want to take a misstep. I don't want anything you don't want for me in my life going forward. I want everything. I want all the joy. I want all the heartache. I want all of it that you have planned. Not because I misstep, but because you've planned it. I want everything you have to give me.
Because that heartache there's lessons in that heartache.
Absolutely.
Because that may sound odd to somebody that's listening.
Yeah, true. True.
Bring on the heartache.
Yeah.
But, it's the lessons that you learn through the heartache. It's the growth that you get from the struggle, and joy.
Yeah.
You can only know joy when you've known heartache.
Yeah, because suffering can be precious. And
it's what brings you to the heart of God.
It is. Whatever drives us to His feet.
Right. Is valuable.
Is valuable. It's beautiful. And like we talked about in the marriage video, humble is the way. When we are humble with our God, we get to know Him. We get to know His heart, just like we do with our husband's hearts.
So hard.
So hard.
Chokes you up, don't it? I would imagine that you would be very vulnerable after divorce. So, are there things that you need to watch out for or be careful that you're, on the other side of this, but you're very raw and
Yeah.
You gonna share? Or?
Okay. Come close. Come close. Be on your guard, because there are wolves out there, and Satan will bring about a pretty boy for you to be in a relationship with, and he'll be a wolf. He'll be an imposter. Don't fall for that. Your emotions are all over the place.
Tell you what you want to hear.
Tell you what you want to hear. They'll look like what you want. They will not be what you want. Listen to me. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Don't fall for the imposter, because that imposter will break your heart.
I need to go to the single women video too.
Yeah. So, because I had an imposter come into my life, and it was bad, and just.
Well, when you're vulnerable, I think you do have to be careful for that. You have to understand that, not to look for your needs to be met in another person, but making sure that you take the time to heal, so that you are stronger and better able to see a person for what they truly have to offer you.
And don't be in a big rush to give your heart away again.
Right.
Don't be in a big rush. You don't have to be in a big rush. God's got your timing.
Right. And that can be good for your kids too.
Yes, because your kids need time to heal. Okay,
Yes.
Can we put that in capital letters down at the bottom of the video? Your kids
I bet we can.
need to have time to heal.
Yes.
Don't be bringing all kinds of people in their life 5 minutes after your divorce is final. Don't do it. Take a breath. Just be about who God has made you to be, and focus on your kids. Focus on your relationship with the Lord.
Because you're essentially teaching your kids how to date, how to heal, how to do a lot of things. So they're watching.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Big time.
So, I had mentioned, having a lot of ladies in the counseling practice, that they have said to me that they felt like after the divorce that they were unusable by God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that blows me away because I don't have those feelings, towards anyone. But did you ever feel that way?
Yeah, I felt that way. That was right out of the Satanic Strategy Handbook. Let's make them feel inadequate. Let's make them feel like less than, unworthy to carry the name of Christ. Never to be used again for God's purposes or whatever. Total lie. Do not believe it. I remember I was in that early stage of being divorced, and I have sang all my life in church. That's where I learned to sing. Thank you, Dr. Galloway. And thought after I got divorced that God could never use me again in that way. And I remember saying this to a lady at my church, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I'm divorced. And she looked at me and she goes, so? And it was almost
Praise
like,
the Lord.
That was like one word redemption to me.
Right.
It's almost like she was like, what?
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
Yes.
Go forth. Be who God called you to be.
Yes.
So, that you have total worth because Christ died for you. That gives you the worth.
That's right.
So walk in it.
That's why we need a Savior.
Yeah. And why we need a support group around ourselves that will speak truth into our lives. And I wish I had that one person when that wolf was circling me that just said, hey, he's not what he says he is. Yeah, divorce is awful. It's a season. God is with you. He still has a plan for your life. He still loves you. Be encouraged by that. And if you, I know I've talked on this channel some about Celebrate Recovery. That is an international program started by Saddleback Church in California by Rick Warren. Celebrate Recovery is not just for drug addicts or alcoholics or people who have issues with food or shopping or sex or whatever. It is for people who have been hurt as well. Because if we don't bring our hurt into the light, it can't be healed.
Didn't you say it's for hurts, habits,
and hang-ups?
Yeah, so that covers a lot. I mean, I think
that's all
find
of us.
God view it all.
Yeah. So if a support group would be helpful to you, just go on the Celebrate Recovery website. I'll put that link down below in the description, but they have support groups that you can be a part of. And you wouldn't think that sitting in a group of 5 to 6 women in a little class and being able to talk about your issue for 5 minutes every week would help. But oh my goodness, it does.
Because I think one of the underlying major themes of support is you're not alone.
You're not alone, and
this happens to other people, and it's happening because it's something that's painful and hard, and so you learn that instead of it just being on you.
Yeah.
So what would you say in closing to our audience?
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Seek that support. You'll be glad that you did.
Yes.
Also, something that I did as I was going through or God provided as I was going through my divorce was that this family, just at our church, they just kind of adopted us. Me and my 2 daughters.
Mm-hmm.
They adopted us.
How beautiful.
They would invite us over for dinner. We'd go to game nights. They would, this family, they are just precious. That whenever I got my marital home ready to sell, they helped me get it ready to sell. They were scraping the popcorn off the ceilings. They were painting. They were adjusting the locks on the doors. All of that. They invested in us. So if somebody's wanting to adopt you at church, let them.
Well, it's just a good, I think, point to make to those of us who care and want to support somebody who's going through a divorce, that there are ways that you can help, and maybe some of those ways are very practical.
Yes, the more practical the better, really.
That's right. So don't hesitate to reach out and to provide support and to invite, because that's another thing that, from sitting in the counseling seat, that a lot of these ladies are very lonely.
Yes.
And they're not getting invited places like they used to, because they used to be part of a couple and now they're not. And sometimes the friends don't know what to do. But, always act in love. Always act in love. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And that will wrap us up today. And don't forget, love, love.
Love, love.